I know, this isn't easy. If you've clicked on this video, you're likely feeling a mix of sorrow, longing, fear, guilt, maybe even love that still burns bright, even though you know it's not right. Maybe you never expected to fall for someone else. Maybe you tried to resist. Maybe you even prayed it away, cried it away, ran from it, only to find yourself pulled back in again. You didn't plan to start this relationship, but now it feels like your soul is split in two. And yet, deep down, you know this can't continue. Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Beam. I've walked with thousands of people just like you. Husbands, wives, faithful believers, spiritual wanderers, all who found themselves caught in something they never imagined, an affair. And not just any affair, but one where real feelings, real connection, real passion formed, and now you're torn between what your heart feels and what your spirit knows to be true. Let me tell you something right from the beginning. You are not evil. You are not too far gone, and this story is not beyond redemption. You are a human being. That means you are capable of deep love, but also vulnerable to deep temptation. The fact that you care, that you feel conflicted, that you're even watching this video, it means something powerful. It means there is still a part of your heart aligned with truth. It means you're still listening for the voice of God, even if it's faint beneath all the noise of emotion. Now hear me when I say this. You can end this. You can come out of it stronger. You can heal your marriage. You can feel whole again, not by denying your feelings, not by shaming yourself into silence, but by doing the hardest, most courageous, and ultimately most loving thing a person can do, choosing to let go of something good for the sake of something greater. You see, affairs are not always born from evil intentions. Many begin with unmet emotional needs, a friend who listens when your spouse doesn't, a coworker who laughs at your jokes when home feels cold, a late night message that turns into something more. You weren't looking to betray, you were looking to feel alive, seen, desired. And for a while, you did. But love, real love, doesn't ask us to betray our vows. Real love doesn't flourish in secrecy. Real love calls us upward, not inward. It demands truth, honor, and sacrifice. The affair may feel like love, intense, passionate, soul deep, but that intensity often comes not because of how right it is, but because of how forbidden it is. The pain of hiding, the thrill of discovery, the ache of knowing you can't really build a life together. It all creates a kind of emotional high that feels like love, but over time it starts to erode your peace, your integrity, your future. Friend, if you are married, or the other person is, then this affair is hurting someone, even if they don't know yet, even if you've convinced yourself it's harmless, even if you believe your marriage is already broken. Affairs don't just damage marriages, they damage you. They fragment your heart. They force you to live a double life, always pretending, always choosing between desire and duty. But here's the truth most people don't hear enough. You don't end an affair by stopping your feelings. You end it by starting your healing. It starts with honesty. It starts with courage. It starts with a single sacred decision. I will not build my future on a foundation of secrets. That doesn't mean the pain will vanish. It won't. You will grieve. You will feel lost. You will question yourself. But just as a surgeon cuts to heal, not to hurt, this ending is not punishment. It's surgery for your soul. It's the removal of something that was never meant to last so that you can finally breathe again, love again, and live again in truth. Yes, you may still love this person. That doesn't make you evil. Yes, you may feel your marriage is beyond repair. That doesn't mean it's over. Yes, you may fear what comes next. That's okay. Healing always starts with fear. But listen to me carefully. God is not done with you. Your spouse is not beyond reaching, and your story is not over. I have seen marriages heal that were completely shattered. I have seen people walk away from affairs that felt like oxygen. And I have seen those same people go on to build marriages that were deeper, more passionate, and more faithful than they ever imagined. But it started with one painful choice: to say goodbye to the affair, even if you still love the person. I'm not asking you to stop loving. I'm asking you to love with truth, to love your spouse enough to fight, to love your own soul enough to reclaim it, to love God enough to trust that he can turn ashes into beauty again. This is not the end of your story. It's a turning point. So in this video, I'm going to walk with you through this process. We'll talk about how to prepare your heart, how to break the emotional ties, how to say goodbye with dignity, how to face the pain that follows, and most importantly, how to find hope again. I'll speak to you not with judgment, but with grace, not with shame, but with strength, because you're not alone. You're not a monster. You're a human being who's about to make the most powerful decision of your life. And I promise you this: freedom is coming, healing is possible, and love, the kind that honors God and lasts a lifetime, is still within reach. Let's begin this journey together. Let's be honest. If ending this affair was easy, you would have done it already. But you haven't, and that's not because you're weak. It's because something real happened in your heart. You bonded, you connected, you shared pieces of yourself that maybe no one else saw. Maybe this person made you feel alive again, noticed again, even loved again in ways you hadn't felt for a long, long time. And now the thought of letting go feels like tearing out a piece of your soul. That's not drama. That's emotional truth. You see, when two people come together in secrecy, in longing, in emotional vulnerability, the connection often becomes addictive. Your brain bonds with them through both dopamine and oxytocin, the same chemicals involved in falling in love and deep intimacy. So even when you know it's wrong, your heart still aches for their voice, their presence, their touch. It's not just temptation. It's chemical. It's spiritual. It's deeply, painfully emotional. And that's exactly why it hurts so deeply to say goodbye. There's a lie many people tell themselves at this stage: if it hurts this bad to leave, then maybe it was meant to be. But let me gently, lovingly tell you the truth. Pain doesn't always mean something is good for you. Sometimes pain is the sign that you're healing from an unhealthy dependency, like detoxing from something you once thought you needed to survive. It's not a sign to go back. It's a sign to move forward with grace, with God, with courage. What most people don't understand is that affairs are not just physical. They are emotional entanglements. You likely shared your fears, your frustrations, your secrets. You gave them a version of your heart that felt pure and free, even while it was hidden. And now you feel like you're being asked to cut off not just a relationship, but a version of yourself that you liked, a version that felt seen. That's what makes this decision so gut-wrenching. But hear me, you can grieve the connection without going back to the situation. The pain you're feeling is not because you're making the wrong choice. It's because you're making the right one. And right choices often come with real suffering. Jesus never promised that doing the right thing would feel good in the moment. He promised it would lead to peace, to freedom, to a life lived in truth. So don't misinterpret your sadness as failure. It's actually a sign of your growth, a sign that you're human and that your heart still works. You're not just ending a relationship. You're ending the fantasy, the illusion, the emotional lifeline you clung to when life felt dry and empty. That's no small thing. But you must also remember that lifeline was never meant to be permanent. It was a substitute, a comfort, a deviation. It may have served something in you for a season, but it cannot lead you to lasting peace or purpose. That only comes when your soul is aligned with integrity, when your heart lives in truth, and when you're no longer living in two worlds. So yes, it hurts. It will hurt for a while, But that pain is holy. It's cleansing. It's the pain of doing the hard, beautiful work of setting your heart free, not for another person, but for yourself, for your family, and ultimately for the God who never stopped loving you even while you were wandering. You are not losing love. You are returning to it, the kind of love that lives in the light. And that is worth every tear. One of the greatest sources of confusion in ending an affair is this question: but if I love them, why should I let them go? That's a fair question, a heartfelt question. And if you're asking it, it means you care deeply, not just about your own feelings, but about doing what's right. The confusion comes from not being able to clearly separate love from attachment, two things that feel almost identical in the moment, but are actually worlds apart in their nature, their roots, and their destination. Let's talk about love first. Real love, the kind that grows in truth and light, always has your highest good in mind. It doesn't demand secrecy. It doesn't flourish in the shadows. Real love uplifts your soul, aligns with your values, and blesses everyone around you, not just the people inside the relationship. Real love is not just about passion or connection. It's about truth, freedom, and sacrifice. Love says, I want what is best for you, even if it costs me something. Love doesn't manipulate. It doesn't trap. It doesn't ask you to compromise your integrity for the sake of keeping a feeling alive. Love is willing to wait, willing to walk away, willing to trust God with the outcome. Now let's look at attachment. Attachment can feel just as intense, sometimes even stronger, but it comes from a different place, a place of need, fear, longing, and often emotional emptiness. Attachment says, I need you to feel okay. It thrives on emotional highs and lows. It becomes a lifeline when everything else in life feels numb or broken. And the more you feed it, the more dependent you become, not on the person's love, but on the way they make you feel. And that's why ending an affair often feels like a kind of death, because you're not just losing a person. You're losing what that person represented in your life. Maybe they made you feel young again, desired, important. Maybe they helped you forget your pain. Maybe they became your escape from a marriage that's been hard, cold, or distant. But friend, that's not love. That's emotional survival. It's not that your feelings weren't real. They were. But realness isn't the same as rightness. The truth is, attachment binds while love frees. Attachment says, don't leave me or I'll fall apart. Love says, I want you to be whole, even if that means letting go. When you begin to see the difference, something powerful happens. Your heart begins to untangle from the emotional web. You realize that the person you loved may have met a need, but they weren't sent by God to fulfill your destiny. They were part of a season, not your story. A lesson, not your future. And when you can grieve that loss honestly, not just the person, but the role they played in your emotional survival, you open the door for a new kind of healing to begin. So let me ask you this gently but clearly. Do you truly love them, or are you emotionally attached to what they made you feel? One leads to peace, the other leads to pain. One grows in truth, the other survives in secrecy. One invites freedom, the other demands a prison. And right now, you have the power to choose. This is not about pretending the affair never happened. It's not about denying the depth of your emotion. It's about choosing the kind of life, the kind of love, and the kind of legacy you want to build from this moment forward. You are stronger than you think, and you are capable of real love, the kind that honors God, restores hearts, and never asks you to hide in the shadows again. One of the most deceptive aspects of an affair is how incredibly powerful it can feel. It's not just a spark, it's a wildfire. The connection seems instant. the passion overwhelming, and the chemistry undeniable. You might think, I've never felt anything like this before, not even with my spouse. And maybe that's true, but the question is why? Why does the affair feel so intense, so consuming, so real? The answer lies not in the affair being more real than your marriage, but in the context that surrounds it. Affairs often begin in a bubble of secrecy and heightened emotion. Every interaction is tinged with adrenaline, the thrill of forbidden touch, the urgency of stolen moments, the rush of not getting caught. It's not just about love. It's about drama. It's about danger. And that danger fuels the desire. It creates an illusion, one that feels more powerful than reality. You're not just falling for a person. You're falling for what they represent in a particular moment of your life. Maybe they showed up when your marriage was falling apart. Maybe they made you feel heard when you felt invisible. Maybe they offered laughter when your heart was drowning in grief. And in that emotional vacuum, the affair didn't just meet a need. It lit a fire in your soul. But here's the truth you need to hear. Intensity is not the same as intimacy. Intensity is fueled by fantasy, secrecy, and the constant threat of loss. It creates an emotional high that keeps you coming back, not always because of love, but because of fear. The fear of losing that connection, the fear of going back to loneliness, the fear of facing what's really broken inside. And here's something even more surprising. Many affairs are built on the best version of each person. In those moments together, you're not dealing with real life. Bills, kids, dishes, disagreements. You're dealing with fantasy. You show each other only the good, the fun, the desirable, the attentive, the sexy. You both become idealized versions of yourselves. But eventually, real life will come knocking. And when it does, that illusion shatters. What you thought was the deepest love of your life often turns out to be the deepest emotional escape of your life. Now, I'm not saying your feelings were fake. They weren't. I'm not saying the person didn't matter. They did. But I am saying this. The intensity of the affair is not a reliable indicator of its rightness. It's a result of psychological, emotional, and even biological forces working together in a moment of crisis, confusion, or unmet need. It feels real, it feels strong, but strength is not measured by how much something pulls on your heart. It's measured by whether it sets your heart free. Affairs trap your soul in a loop of highs and lows. Real love, true, sacrificial, enduring love, grounds you. It lifts you. It doesn't ask you to hide. It doesn't call you to lie. It doesn't need darkness to survive. So today, I want to gently invite you to open your eyes, not just to what you feel, but to what's fueling those feelings. Not just to the connection, but to the cost. Not just to what you think you're gaining, but to what you're slowly losing. You don't have to live in illusion any longer. The truth is painful, but it is also liberating. And the moment you step into it, the spell begins to break. Not all at once, but slowly, surely, and powerfully. And when that illusion fades, the door to true healing begins to open. When you're in the middle of an affair, especially one filled with intense emotion, it's easy to focus on what you're gaining: connection, attention, excitement, passion. For a while, it feels like you've been given something you desperately needed, maybe even something you felt you were starving for. It can feel like you've finally come alive again. But there's something most people don't talk about until it's too late: the hidden costs. Because even when the affair gives you something emotionally or physically satisfying, it's also quietly, consistently taking something away. And over time, what you lose often outweighs anything you thought you gained. Let's talk about what it's really doing. Beneath the surface, behind the smiles, beneath the thrill, first and foremost, it is fragmenting your identity. When you're living two lives, one in the dark, it starts to tear at the very fabric of your soul. You begin to lose yourself. You catch yourself lying when you used to be honest. You avoid eye contact with the people you love. You live in fear of discovery. Even your prayers change or stop altogether because you don't feel worthy to come before God anymore. That slow erosion of your character isn't just affecting your spiritual life, it's affecting your very sense of self-worth. And you know what happens next? Shame begins to build, quiet at first, just a whisper in the back of your mind. Then louder, you tell yourself it's not that bad. You can control it. You'll end it soon. But as time goes on, you begin to feel more and more trapped, not just by the relationship, but by the guilt that clings to you like a shadow. Then there's your emotional energy. You only have so much of it. But when you're in an affair, so much of that energy goes into secrecy, hiding messages, explaining your absences, managing emotional swings, covering your tracks, and mentally rehearsing what you've said to whom. That constant tension doesn't just exhaust you, it robs the people around you of your full presence. Your children, your spouse, your friends, they begin to get only fragments of you. The affair is also rewriting the story of your marriage. You may think the marriage was already dead, but what if it wasn't? What if it was just wounded? And now, instead of healing it, the affair is deepening the wounds. Even if your spouse doesn't know yet, the affair is changing the emotional atmosphere in your home. It shifts how you see your partner. It distorts the lens. You stop fighting for the marriage and start feeding the fantasy. And let's not forget the spiritual cost. When you live in a way that contradicts your values, your soul begins to ache, even if you try to numb it. That dissonance between who you want to be and what you're doing leads to spiritual confusion, fatigue, and sometimes despair. You stop hearing God clearly, not because he stopped speaking, but because your heart is tangled in a web of contradictions. And deep down, you know it. But maybe the greatest cost is your future. Every day you stay in the affair is a day you delay your healing. It's a day stolen from your marriage, your children, your wholeness. It's a day given to something that cannot last. And even if the affair were to work out, if you were to leave your spouse and start over, the baggage, the trauma, the guilt, and the trust issues would follow you. You cannot build a life of peace on a foundation of broken promises. But here's the grace. It's not too late. Yes, the affair has cost you something, but it doesn't have to keep taking from you. You can stop the drain. You can reclaim your soul. You can walk back into the light. The process will be painful, yes, but pain with purpose is better than pleasure with destruction. And if you're willing to face the hidden costs, really face them, you'll begin to find the strength to say, enough, no more. I want my life back. And that, my friend, is the first step toward freedom. There comes a moment in every affair when the fog begins to lift, even if just for a second, and a hard question rises to the surface. What does this mean for my marriage? It's a question that comes with fear, guilt, defensiveness, and sometimes resentment. But it's a question that must be asked. And even more importantly, it must be answered truthfully. Because here's what I've seen over and over again in my years of working with couples in crisis. Most affairs aren't just about the other person. They're also about what's been happening or not happening inside the marriage. Maybe your marriage has felt empty for years. Maybe communication broke down a long time ago. Maybe you feel more like roommates than lovers. Or maybe your spouse wounded you deeply with words, with silence, or with betrayal of their own. Whatever the cause, the distance grew, the warmth faded. And somewhere along the way, the part of you that once fought for this marriage stopped fighting. That's where the affair stepped in. Not necessarily because the other person was better, but because they became the escape, the emotional oxygen, the connection that seemed to fill the gaps your marriage no longer could. But here's the truth, and it's a hard one. An affair is a symptom, not a solution. It might expose what's broken in the marriage, but it can never fix it. And now, as painful as it may be, it's time to face your marriage for what it really is. Not through the distorted lens of comparison, not through the highs of the affair, but through honest, compassionate, grounded eyes. Because only when you're willing to see it clearly can you begin to heal it. So let me ask you some tough but necessary questions. Have you truly tried to revive your marriage? Or did you give up before the effort began? Have you had honest conversations with your spouse about your emotional needs? Or have you buried them in silence or blame? Have you stopped investing in the marriage because you assumed the other person should have done all the work? Facing the truth about your marriage doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It doesn't mean ignoring the years of pain or dismissing real issues. What it does mean is owning your part of the story and deciding whether you're willing to fight for what can still be saved. And yes, it can be saved. I've seen marriages on the brink of divorce restored into relationships full of passion, depth, and new beginnings. I've watched couples forgive the unforgivable and rebuild something better than what they ever had. But it didn't happen by accident. It happened because they chose to look at the truth, ugly and raw, and then walk through it together with humility, honesty, and courage. Here's another truth. If you end the affair and go back to your marriage without facing what led you away in the first place, nothing will change. You will feel trapped again, empty again, lonely again. But if you face the truth, both your pain and your part, the healing begins. Maybe slowly, maybe with tears, but it begins. And if your marriage is truly beyond repair, then even that must be faced in truth, not in the fog of an affair. If a marriage ends, let it end in the light, not in the shadow. Let it end with dignity, not deceit. That is the only path to peace, both for you and your spouse. So right now, take a deep breath. Look at your marriage not with contempt, but with compassion, not just at what it is, but at what it once was and what by God's grace it might become again. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to keep running. It's time to look love in the face, the one you once made vows to, and ask, is there still something here worth fighting for? If there is, then fight. If there isn't, then walk in truth. But whatever you do, don't let an affair write the ending of your story. Letting go of someone you love, even in the context of an affair, is not something you do in a single moment. It begins first on the inside, long before the final goodbye is spoken. The truth is, if you don't prepare your heart and spirit for the release, your goodbye may only be temporary. You may try to walk away only to find yourself pulled back in by lingering feelings, unfinished emotions, and deep spiritual unrest. That's why real and lasting change begins with preparation, not just external action, but internal surrender. You don't end an affair with willpower alone. You end it with a clear conviction and a deep understanding of why you must let go and what you're letting go of. You're not just walking away from a person. You're releasing the fantasy, the comfort, the emotional dependency, and the story you built around them. That's no small thing. That's the unraveling of something that felt sacred, even though it wasn't built in truth. So how do you prepare to let go? First, you must get honest with yourself about what this relationship really is. Not just what it felt like, but what it cost, who it hurt, what it has taken from your peace, your values, your relationship with God. Write it down if you have to. Make it real. Because as long as it lives in your mind as only beautiful and bittersweet, you will always struggle to walk away. But when you bring the full truth into the light, the lies, the fear, the secrecy, the internal conflict, your heart will begin to see it differently. Next, you must reconnect with your why. Why do you want to end this affair? Why are you choosing the hard road of truth? Why are you willing to grieve, to weep, to feel lonely for a season? Because you believe in something greater. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your own soul. Maybe it's your walk with God. Whatever it is, anchor yourself in that truth. When the pull comes, and it will come, that why will become your compass. It will remind you that this is not just about letting go, it's about coming home. Then you must prepare spiritually. You cannot win a battle of this magnitude without drawing strength from beyond yourself. Because this is more than emotional, it's spiritual warfare. It's the tug of war between the person you were becoming and the person God is calling you back to be. So come before him, not with shame, but with open hands. Say, Lord, I don't know how to do this, but I know I must. Give me the courage. Heal what's broken in me. Help me to choose what is right, even when it hurts. God will not abandon you in this. In fact, he's been waiting for this moment, not to punish you, but to restore you, to cleanse you, to walk with you through the grief and into the light of redemption. Your tears will not go unnoticed. Your obedience will not go unrewarded. And finally, you must understand this. Letting go is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your healing. It may feel like death, but in truth, it's a resurrection. It's the laying down of something false so that something real can rise in its place. You don't need to be fully healed before you let go. You just need to be willing. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take the first step. And once you do, once your heart is prepared, the goodbye won't just be a moment. It will be a decision backed by truth, by courage, and by a growing peace that comes only when you live in the light. Letting go is hard, but staying in bondage is harder. The pain of release is temporary. The reward of freedom is eternal. So prepare your heart, my friend. God is not calling you to lose love. He is calling you to find it again in a way that does not require hiding, lying, or living in pieces. You're closer than you think. You've reached the point where the decision is made. You've prepared your heart. You've faced the truth. And now it's time. Time to end the affair. But not just halfway. Not with a loophole or a delay, not with words that leave the door cracked open. No, this moment demands something deeper, something braver. It demands honor and finality. And let me be clear, this is one of the hardest things you will ever do, is because you are not simply ending a relationship. You are breaking an emotional bond. You are severing a soul tie that was never meant to form, but did. You are choosing pain now over deeper pain later. And that requires extraordinary courage. So how do you do it? First, be clear, be direct, be kind, but firm. Don't leave things vague. Don't say maybe later, or I just need space, or I still love you, but that only invites confusion and temptation. You don't need to rehearse a speech. You just need to say the truth with love and conviction. Say something like this: I care deeply about you. What we shared was real, but it was not right. I cannot live divided anymore. I have made the decision to end this completely. For my soul, for my marriage, for my future, and for the person I want to be before God. I will not reach out again, and I ask you to honor that. This must be goodbye. That may sound harsh, but the most compassionate thing you can do for both of you is to make the ending unmistakable. Second, end all contact completely. This is where many people stumble. They say the words, but leave the back door open. A text here, a memory shared there, an occasional check-in when loneliness creeps in. But friend, those small moments keep the wound from healing. They're like picking at a scab every time it tries to close. Block the number. Delete the photos. Remove social media connections. Eliminate the excuses. That's not cruelty, it's clarity. That's not punishment, it's protection for both of you. Third, expect grief, but don't let grief rewrite the truth. After you say goodbye, your emotions will rebel. The heartache will hit. You'll remember the good moments. You'll question yourself. You may even feel physical withdrawal, like something has been ripped from your chest. That's normal. That's part of the detachment process. But grief doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. Grief is what happens when your soul starts coming back together. Let the tears come. Let the ache move through, but don't answer it with reunion. Answer it with resolve and with the quiet, steady voice of your conviction. I let go because I chose truth. I chose healing. I chose integrity, and I will not go back. Fourth, lean into support. You weren't meant to do this alone. Confide in a trusted friend, a mentor, or a counselor who walks with grace and wisdom. Let someone help you hold the line when the emotions get too heavy. The enemy loves isolation, but healing lives in connection. And if you're married, eventually, when the time is right, this is a journey you must walk in transparency with your spouse as well. Finally, invite God into the space that the affair once filled. That emptiness you feel, that ache, it's not a void to be feared. It's a sacred space to be filled with something real. This is where the deeper work begins. This is where God begins, not just to comfort you, but to restore you. And he will. If you keep coming to him with honesty and humility, he will not let this chapter end in shame. He will write something redemptive, something stronger, wiser, and far more beautiful than you can see right now. Ending an affair with honor doesn't mean you don't cry. It doesn't mean you stop feeling overnight. It means you choose what is right over what is easy, not just once, but daily, until the heart catches up with the spirit. And friend, you can do this. You have the strength, you have the clarity, and most of all, you have the invitation of a loving, faithful God who is ready to meet you on the other side of obedience, not with condemnation, but with comfort and renewal. This is not the end. It's the beginning of everything you truly want. Peace, wholeness, integrity, real love that doesn't have to hide. Say goodbye. Say it fully. Say it once and for all. And then take the first step into the light of freedom. After you end the affair, there's a silence, a stillness, a void that once was filled with emotion, excitement, connection, even love. And in that stillness, something many people don't expect hits them with full force: withdrawal. You may feel like you're falling apart. You may cry at random moments. You might feel anxious, restless, angry, or worse, completely numb. You might catch yourself staring at your phone, hoping for a message you know shouldn't come, or waking up in the middle of the night longing for someone who's no longer there. You may wonder, why does this hurt so much? If this was the right thing to do, why does it feel like death? Because in many ways it is. It's the death of a secret life, the death of a fantasy, the death of a bond that wasn't built to last, but still felt real. And just like any loss, there is grief. But here's the truth you need to cling to. Grief is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of healing. The ache you feel now is not punishment. It's proof that your heart is reclaiming itself. It's proof that the emotional ties are loosening. The very fact that you feel it so deeply means you're doing the hard, holy work of letting go. Affairs create powerful emotional and biochemical bonds. The release of dopamine, oxytocin, and adrenaline creates a high, a rush, that your brain and body crave, just like a drug. So when you walk away, you're not just ending a relationship, You're going through withdrawal. And like any withdrawal, the early days are the hardest. You'll be tempted to go back, not because the affair was good for you, but because it was familiar, soothing, emotionally intense. That's when you must hold the line. That's when you must remember this pain is temporary. Returning would only restart the cycle. So what do you do with this grief? How do you survive this season? First, don't suppress it. Grief is like a wave. It builds, crashes, and recedes. Let it come. Let the tears fall. Let your body feel what it needs to feel. The more you suppress it, the longer it lingers. Grieve with intention. Journal your feelings. Pray your pain. Talk it out with someone who won't judge you but will also remind you of the truth. Second, remind yourself why you left. Keep a list if you have to, a written reminder of what the affair cost you, of what it was doing to your soul, to your marriage, to your sense of peace. Because when grief shows up, it doesn't always bring logic, it brings emotion. And that's why you need truth to ground you in the moments your heart tries to wander back. Third, replace. Don't just remove. You can't just remove the affair from your life and leave a vacuum. Nature and the heart hates a void. You must fill that space with healthier connections, with community, with purpose, with faith, with habits that strengthen your soul. Pour into your marriage if you're married. Reconnect with God's word. Invest in healing. When you replace the fantasy with truth, the craving begins to lose its power. Fourth, practice self-compassion. You're going to have moments when you feel weak, when you think, I should be over this by now. But healing doesn't happen on a schedule. Grief doesn't follow a timeline. Don't shame yourself for feeling. Instead, speak to yourself the way God would, with grace, truth, and unwavering love. Finally, trust the process. There will come a day, maybe not today, maybe not next week, when you'll feel lighter, when the ache won't burn so sharply, when you'll remember the affair not with longing, but with clarity. That day is coming, but for now, your only job is to keep walking, one faithful step at a time. You're not going backward. You're not unraveling. You're healing. You're growing. You're moving through the valley of grief toward the mountaintop of peace. And God is with you not just at the end, but in the middle, in the tears, in the ache, in the silence. He is near to the brokenhearted. He binds up their wounds, and he will do that for you. So grieve, but don't give up. Feel the loss, but don't go back. Let your soul mourn, and then let it rise. The pain will pass, but the freedom you gain, that lasts forever. When it's time to end the affair, one of the most emotionally loaded moments is the final conversation. The words you choose matter, not just for them, but for your own soul. This is not the moment to smooth things over, to ease the discomfort, or to leave space for maybe someday. This is the moment for truth, dignity, and closure. Many people feel conflicted about this step. You don't want to hurt the other person. You care about them. You shared real emotions, real moments, real vulnerability. Maybe you even told them you loved them. So how do you now turn around and say goodbye? Without cruelty, without chaos, but also without compromise. You do it with love anchored in truth. You do it with words that free, not bind. And you do it with honor for them, for yourself, and for the life God is calling you back to live. Here's what to say. I care about you deeply. This relationship has meant something to me, but I can't keep living a divided life. I know this isn't what's right for either of us. I have made the decision to end this completely and not to look back. This is not about rejection. It's about restoration for my marriage, for my soul, and for my future. I will not be contacting you again, and I ask that you honor this choice. Please don't reach out It's over, and it must be. Let your tone be calm, respectful, and firm. This is not a negotiation. It's a declaration. Now let's talk about what not to say. Don't say, maybe someday. That's a dangerous phrase. It keeps hope alive. It tells them, this isn't really over, just paused. That's not closure. That's emotional sabotage. It's unkind, even if it sounds compassionate. You are not doing them a favor by leaving the door open. You're only prolonging their pain and yours. Don't say, you deserve better. That might sound noble, but it puts the blame on them in a subtle way. It's not about what they deserve. It's about what is right. You're ending this because it violates your values, your vows, your spiritual alignment, not because they failed you. Don't say, I'll always love you, even if you feel it, even if you believe it, even if it's true. That phrase changed the soul. It ties them to a memory, to a hope, to a version of you that no longer exists. Your job is not to fan the flames of longing. Your job is to gently but clearly extinguish the flame so that healing can begin for both of you. Don't argue, don't justify, don't defend. If they push back, if they beg, if they cry, stay grounded. You don't have to explain every detail. You don't owe a 10-point thesis on your decision. You only need to say, this is hard, but it's done. I'm not going back. Please don't contact me. I hope you find healing, but this chapter is closed. And then walk away. Not out of coldness, out of conviction. You are not responsible for how they receive it. You are only responsible for saying it with love and standing by it with strength. Remember this, they don't need another promise. They don't need more confusion. They need release. And so do you. Let your goodbye be clear enough to end the story, not create another chapter. And when you do this, when you walk away with clarity, kindness, and courage, you will feel a deep shift in your soul. The emotional weight will begin to lift. The confusion will start to fade because there's something powerful about choosing truth, even when it breaks your heart. So say what needs to be said and then be silent. No follow-up, no messages, no emotional check-ins. Close the door, not in bitterness, but in boldness. It's not just the right thing to do, it's the only way to be free. After the final words have been said, after the phone is silent, after the last message is deleted, you're left with yourself. And for many, that is the hardest part. The silence can be deafening. The emptiness feels like a void. You've let go of something you loved, and now you ask, what do I do with the pieces of my heart? This is the sacred space of rebuilding. It may not feel sacred right now. It may feel like wandering through ruins. But friend, hear me. You are not broken beyond repair. This isn't where your story ends. This is where the healing begins. Because the person you were in the affair, fragmented, divided, conflicted, is not the person you're becoming. You are learning to live whole again, and rebuilding begins with grace. You will be tempted to beat yourself up, to rehearse your failures, to drown in shame, but shame only repeats the cycle. It isolates, it silences, it suffocates your hope. Grace does the opposite. It breathes, it lifts. It says, yes, you fell, but that's not where you have to stay. So let yourself feel, but don't let yourself stay stuck. Start small. Reclaim your habits. Wake up with purpose, even if it's just to make coffee and open the Word of God. Move your body, rest your mind. Take care of yourself like someone who is worth loving, because you are. You may feel like a failure, but you are a child of God being shaped by truth, not ruined by it. Next, rebuild your identity. Affairs confuse who we are. They blur our boundaries and distort our sense of worth. But now that the fog is lifting, you have the chance to rediscover the core of who you are. the values that matter to you, the integrity you want to live with, the kind of love you want to give and receive. You are not defined by what you did. You are defined by what you choose next. If you're married, begin gently, humbly to repair that relationship. Not by pretending nothing happened, but by bringing your whole self back to the table. Your honesty, your pain, your regret, your desire to rebuild trust. That road is long, but it is possible. And countless couples, deeply wounded by betrayal, have walked it all the way back to restoration. If you're not married, or if the marriage cannot be saved, then let this be the season you build a foundation that will never again be compromised by secrecy or emotional drift. Take this time to strengthen your walk with God, your emotional intelligence, your understanding of healthy connection, and yes, get support. You cannot rebuild alone. Whether it's a therapist, a recovery group, a pastor, or a few trusted friends, let people in. Isolation is the soil in which relapse grows. But connection, accountability, and truth, that's where transformation takes root. Don't rush this process. Don't pressure yourself to move on quickly. This isn't about speed. It's about depth. It's about healing from the inside out, so that next time when temptation knocks, you won't need to run to a fantasy to feel whole, because you'll already know who you are, whose you are, and what you're worth. Rebuilding after an affair isn't just about avoiding a mistake again. It's about becoming someone so rooted in truth, so anchored in grace, that your heart no longer wavers when life feels empty or hard. It's about becoming someone who walks in integrity even when no one is watching. You are already on that journey. You took the first brave step. You said goodbye to what was destroying you, and now it's time to say hello to what God is building in you. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a life that is real, whole, honest, and holy. So keep going, even if you're trembling, even if you feel lost. You are being remade. And the best version of you is rising from the rubble when you've walked through the pain of ending an affair, through the grief, the withdrawal, the shame, the silence. You might ask yourself, can anything good come from all of this? Is restoration even possible after what I've done or what I've lost? And the answer, spoken from the deepest places of grace, is this: yes, restoration is possible. Not always easy, not always fast, but always possible. The God we serve is not just the God of second chances. He is the God of resurrection. That means he doesn't just patch up broken things. He breathes new life into what was dead. And what the enemy meant to destroy, God can use to rebuild something far more honest, far more sacred, and far more beautiful than you ever imagined. But restoration doesn't begin outside of you. It begins within. It starts with hope. Not hope that everything will be perfect, but hope that your story is not over. Hope that who you are becoming matters more than who you've been. Hope that grace truly does reach the darkest places and calls you forward into the light. You may have lost trust. You may have lost respect from others and from yourself. You may have lost time, connection, or years of intimacy. But loss does not have the final word. In time, with truth and humility, trust can be rebuilt. Not overnight, not without pain, but step by step, brick by brick. I've watched couples who once sat on opposite sides of betrayal sit together again, not with bitterness, but with grace, honesty, and a love that was refined in fire. And I've watched individuals who felt unworthy of love become anchors of strength and healing in their future relationships. If you're married, restoration might mean learning how to love again, not as naive lovers, but as people who have seen the worst and still chose to forgive. It may mean sitting through awkward conversations, opening old wounds, and learning to reconnect emotionally and spiritually. But I promise you, restoration is not just about staying together. It's about building something new together, something stronger. If you're not married, or if your marriage does not survive this chapter, restoration still belongs to you. Your healing is not dependent on someone else's decision. It's rooted in your response to God's call, the call to walk in wholeness, in truth, and in hope. You are not disqualified from love. You are not unworthy of a new beginning. God's mercy is not exhausted by your failure. So what do you do now? You live each day as a person set free. You stay close to truth. You build community around you. You pursue growth, not guilt. You protect your boundaries. You forgive yourself when the memories sting. And you recommit every day to the life God is restoring in you. And slowly, the past loses its grip. The grief begins to fade. The shame gives way to peace. And one day, yes, one day, you'll look back on this valley and see it for what it was. Not the end of your story, but the beginning of your redemption. You will love again. You will laugh again. You will walk in confidence, not as someone who is perfect, but as someone who was rescued, refined, and rebuilt. God isn't finished with you. He's just getting started. And the future that awaits you, it's broader than you think. Now that the affair has ended, the fog is lifting, and the emotional whirlwind is beginning to settle, the most important question remains: what now? How do you heal what's been broken in your marriage or in your heart? Let me assure you, healing is not only possible, it's God's desire for you. But it doesn't happen automatically. Healing is not a feeling that shows up one day. It's a series of deliberate steps that rebuild your life with honesty, grace, and forward motion. If you're married, the first step is this: full transparency. Secrets are the poison of intimacy. You must come clean, not in a way that causes more trauma than healing, but in a way that honors your spouse with truth. This means telling what's necessary to move forward, not just what you're comfortable admitting. Your spouse can't begin to rebuild trust until they know what's been broken. And though that conversation may feel like death, it's actually where healing begins, because you can't heal what you hide. Second, you must own your choices. Don't shift blame. Don't make excuses. Yes, there may have been unmet needs in your marriage, but your decision to step outside of it was yours. True healing begins when you take full responsibility and humbly say, I did this and I want to make it right. That humility speaks louder than any apology. Third, invite your spouse into the healing journey. This isn't about convincing them to move on or get over it. It's about saying, I want to fight for us. I'm willing to do the work. And I hope you are too. That might mean counseling. It might mean marriage intensives, deep conversations, time apart to process. But whatever it looks like, healing your marriage will require both of you showing up fully, raw, hurt, honest, and willing. Fourth, set new boundaries together. After betrayal, the old rules don't work anymore. You have to build new safeguards, new communication rhythms, new habits of accountability. This isn't control, it's commitment. It's a way of showing your spouse, you can trust that I am rebuilding this marriage one boundary at a time. Fifth, be patient with the process. Your spouse may not forgive quickly. They may lash out. They may be confused, withdrawn, or emotionally fragile. That doesn't mean they're failing. It means they're wounded. Your job in this season is not to rush their healing, but to walk beside them with steadiness and grace. Now, if you're single, your path is different, but just as important. First, seek out your identity again. The affair may have left you confused about who you are. You may feel shame, guilt, or deep emotional loneliness. Start by rebuilding your core, not from the image of who you were in the relationship, but from the truth of who God says you are. Spend time in His Word. Surround yourself with friends and mentors who speak life into you, not condemnation. Second, Grieve what was lost, but release what was never real. It's okay to feel pain, but don't romanticize the affair. Remind yourself of what it really was and why it had to end. That clarity will help you avoid slipping back into longing for something that ultimately caused harm. Third, engage in personal healing. Consider counseling or joining a recovery group. Learn what led you into the affair in the first place, whether it was loneliness, unresolved trauma, unmet emotional needs, or a lack of boundaries. This isn't about shame. It's about healing from the inside out so you don't carry those wounds into your future. Fourth, focus on spiritual renewal. Spend time with God. Let his presence be the safe place you once tried to find in another person. Repent where needed. Receive grace where it's offered. And rebuild your spiritual walk, not around guilt, but around gratitude. You are not disqualified from love. His mercy rewrites stories every day. Finally, whether married or single, look ahead. Not with fear, not with regret, but with hope. This is not the end of your ability to love or be loved. It's the beginning of a new journey, one grounded in truth, healed by grace, and strengthened by intentional steps of growth. You may feel weak right now, but weakness is not the opposite of healing. It's often where healing begins, and God delights in restoring what we surrender to him. So breathe, begin again, one step at a time, one honest day at a time, one faithful decision at a time. Your past does not define you. Your pain will not consume you. And your future, by the grace of God, is still full of life, joy, and the kind of love that no longer has to hide. At the end of it all, after the tears, after the goodbye, after the grief and the soul searching, comes the quiet question every heart longs to answer: will I ever feel whole again? And the answer, spoken with gentleness and power, is yes. Yes, you can heal. Yes, you can love again, in truth, in wholeness, in freedom. Yes, you can live without the shadows of the past controlling your every step, because the same God who calls you out of darkness doesn't leave you standing alone in the light. He walks with you. He restores what was lost, and he redeems what was broken, even if it was broken by your own hand. You see, God is not only the God of conviction, he is the God of completion. He doesn't stop at just pulling you away from what harmed you. He leads you into something better, something eternal, something anchored not in fleeting emotions, but in unshakable truth. But here's the thing, finding hope again is not about erasing the past. It's about allowing God to transform it. It's saying, this happened, but it doesn't have to define me. It's saying, I've made mistakes, but I am not my mistake. It's saying, I lost my way, but I'm walking home. And oh, how God loves when his children walk home. Your journey may still be tender. The wounds may not be fully closed, but hope is not something you find when everything is perfect. Hope is what pulls you forward when nothing feels certain. So how do you begin trusting God with your future? You do it one surrendered moment at a time. You wake up and say, God, I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I believe you're already in it. You pray, Lord, rebuild me, redirect me, restore my peace, and rewire my desires. You stop obsessing over the outcome and start walking in obedience, because in obedience, peace is born. If you're married, trust that God can rekindle what feels gone, that hearts can soften, that trust, though broken, can be rebuilt. If you're single, trust that your future relationships can be marked by purity, clarity, and maturity, not secrecy or emotional confusion. God has not removed your chance at love. He has preserved it by calling you back into alignment with his truth. And if you feel unworthy, if guilt still tries to creep in, remember this: the cross wasn't just for the clean. It was for the fallen, for the ashamed, for the ones who said yes when they should have said no, for the hearts that wandered and the souls that are now ready to return. God doesn't love the polished version of you. He loves you right here, right now. And he has never, not for 1 second, given up on the future he still sees for you. So breathe deeply. Lift your head. Let your story be one of redemption, not regret. Let your legacy be one of courage, not just because you ended the affair, but because you chose to rebuild in the aftermath. And never forget, this isn't just about what you left behind. This is about who you're becoming. You are learning to live whole again. You are walking in truth. You are embracing grace. You are not just surviving. You are stepping into hope. And with God holding your future, you will not only heal, you will thrive. You've walked with me through some of the deepest valleys a human heart can experience. The heartbreak of letting go, the grief of ending something you once cherished, the agony of choosing integrity over emotional comfort. And yet, what I hope you've discovered is this: you are not alone. You are not hopeless, and you are not beyond redemption. Ending an affair with someone you love may feel like you're tearing out a piece of your soul, but in truth, you're reclaiming it. You're choosing to walk away not just from a relationship, but from secrecy, fragmentation, and inner conflict. And though the road ahead may be painful, it is sacred, because every step away from the affair is a step toward wholeness, clarity, and healing. Whether for your marriage or for your own heart, if you're walking this path alone. You talked about the emotional steps, the boundaries, the spiritual restoration, and how to rebuild yourself brick by brick, breath by breath. It's not easy, but it is possible. And more than that, it's worth it, because the life that's waiting for you on the other side of obedience is one you don't have to hide. It's full of truth, full of peace, and full of love, real love, that honors your soul and your story. So here's what I want to leave you with. Don't give up. Don't go back. Don't let the past define your future. You were made for more than this moment. You were made to heal. You were made to be free. And God, the same God who sees every scar in secret, is not ashamed of you. He is calling you forward with open arms and a heart full of grace. You can start again. You can find peace. And yes, you can be whole. If this message spoke to your heart, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you're walking through this. You are not alone, and we're here to walk with you. And remember, no matter how far you've gone, you are never too far for grace to find you and for love to lead you home. Take heart. Keep walking. Your best days are still ahead.